everyone. Welcome to another fantastic virtual tasting with us at Becker Vineyards. We have quite the panel for you this evening. I am joined tonight by Rachel Fanning, our assistant winemaker and enologist. We also have, of course, Dr. Richard Becker. We also have Dr. Joseph Becker. So both of the doctors Becker are with us, our owners and proprietors. We also have our winemaker, John Leahy, and we have Bobby Totten, our assistant tasting room coordinator. Oh, and Margaret, if she can also a little bit tonight.
And Margaret, who never wants to be on camera for some reason, so we do our darndest to make sure
these library wines tonight. We have 3 different wines, all from the same vintage, all from 2012, which, funny enough, this was John Leahy's very first vintage of harvest wines to produce with us at Becker Vineyards. So I will kick it over to him to get us started. Cheers, everybody.
Oh, what a great introduction. Cheers. And Rachel, thanks for joining us, even though I know you were just as tired as I am after being out in the hot sun of West Texas. Doc, would you like to say a few words to kick it off, or Joe, one of the two of you?
Yeah, both of us. But 61 weeks now of responding to this terrible pandemic, and lots of progress in our country and in England, not so much in many others. I think the thing to remember about this is that this is a world pandemic. This is not over until it's over in the whole planet. So it's wonderful that we have 60 and maybe 70% of our population vaccinated by July 4th, and but we have to bring this to the whole world. 2 of my grandsons got either placebo or vaccine, ages 6 and 9, a couple days ago. I'm really proud of them for doing that. But this is a world battle, and we can't just like we can win it at home. Joe?
I muted myself because Nicholas, my 3-year-old, was screaming in the back, background. So no, it's been very surreal, and it's, you know, I have nothing to say, but thanks to my children's teachers and to everyone who's been doing everything they can, sports coaches, braving everything to make sure my kids continue to have as much of a reasonably normal childhood as possible. So with that said, I'll turn it back over to you guys.
Well, I great sentiments all, and I'm very happy that we are where we're at now, and so many people have worked so very hard to get us there. So with that, I would like to pick up the Barbera Merlot, and I would love everyone to join me in a little swirl, sniff, and taste. And then I think we should start off with Margaret this week and have her tell us how she likes the wine. Oh, if looks could kill.
The wine is wonderful. It's I think it's perfect for today. I think it's a lighter wine, and it's just it's smooth, it's enjoyable, every inch of it. It's just wonderful. Thank
Margaret,
you.
we love having you on these, so so we're going to continue to pick on you a little bit. So, Rachel, what would you like to add some information about the Barbera Merlot? One, first of all, your opinion, and secondly, what do you think is in the wine?
Absolutely. So I first off have to say that this has always been one of my very favorite wines that we've bottled. We bottled this. I came on a year after John, and so I introduced it to the cellar. This was sitting in barrels in our tank room. This is before we have all these massive warehouses to store all of our barrels. So this was sitting in the back of tank room 3, and this, we bottled it out maybe 6 months after I got there. But this has always been such a beautiful, beautiful wine. And Margaret, I don't know why you didn't mention that at your first taste, you didn't go, who'd blend a Barbera and a Merlot? Who would do so?
You did. It's wonderful.
Give that one back to John.
I know.
Well,
Okay, John.
I also dress myself every day too, so that should have been your first clue.
Oh,
Oh, I think we're all aware of that, John. You didn't need to say that.
We root for
He
you.
reminds me of Nicholas, Joe, yeah.
You know, I have any idea how many days Jody's like, are you dressing yourself again today?
Such an accomplishment.
Exactly. It is for me. It's a great accomplishment. I'm just saying. So, so Joe, John's comic relief. So Joe, what's your opinion of the wine?
Well, so what's in the wine is Barbera and Merlot, John, because I know that if we asked you that, you would say that. I would actually, I didn't do my homework. I didn't look at the tasting notes, but I was just, I'll say this. I think the Barbera is always such a wonderful wine when we can grow it in Texas. We used to have the wonderful Cartwright Vineyard in Mason. But I do feel like I get a little bit of a violet note in this wine, and I don't know if that's the Merlot in this, but I've tasted this in some of our other Merlots. It's kind of a similar note. I think it's an interesting wine, and I think it's aged quite well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think you're right. I do get violet out of several Texas Merlots. I think it's a wonderful thing. I often wonder, without delving too deep, I often wonder if this is a various form of 2EG ethyl glycol or not. The instead of rose, violet, which just kind of out of curiosity, it doesn't matter whether it is or it's just that violet is really nice. So, I have to go back to Rebecca because I want her opinion on the Barbera Merlot. Because she's the one, Barbera Merlot.
100%. This was actually out in the tasting room when I very first started, and it was very shortly after I started, it went to library, but I did get to taste it. I was actually just reading through your tasting notes that you wrote, John, and I forgot how glorious your tasting notes are.
I hate computers.
So much. There aren't any typos at all.
Are you going to read them or are you going to make me sit and suffer? No? Okay.
However, this wine, Bobby's got him. I printed him off the copy. This wine, just like Rachel said, it's always been one of my favorites. And like Margaret said, it's super smooth. It does have that velvet, from start to finish. I love the fact that this is a 12 Barbera, yet it still has a lot of depth of flavor, and you wouldn't necessarily expect that. I've heard you say, John, that Barbera a lot of times doesn't age for very long, and so this one I just think is glorious, and it still has fruit. It still has those great floral notes, and I'm really enjoying this one a lot. I poured wine into 2 different glasses for Rachel and I to try, and we've kind of been moving back and forth. We both, I think, decided on the Bordeaux glass for this one, but we'll see.
Well, Bobby?
Yeah, so this is never ceases to amaze me. This one, I get kind of a hint of like campfire, like on the nose, just kind of like almost like a kind of a really awesome, beautiful nose to it. That floral characteristic as well. And then the palate, I mean, just some deep plum characteristics to it. A little bit of that toasted caramel kind of on the finish. But it's a really beautiful wine. And then the rim variation, I just love how the color is, also changing. You can kind of see the age on it. It's a really beautiful wine.
I think so too. I unfortunately did not get these wines decanted early enough. I decanted them about 45 minutes, and I really think they need an hour and a half. Right. The Barbera Merlot has gone under such a transformation in just the last hour. So I think we spoke about this last week to everybody. They were asking questions about when to decant on these. I think an hour and a half is certainly at least an hour and a half. Yeah. So Doc, what do you think of the Barbera Merlot?
Well, John, let's talk about the history of this wine. Because I have a great friend, David Mazurski, a vascular surgeon from Canada. He's been a wonderful doctor in San Antonio for decades. loved Italian wine and wanted me to find a way to make some Italian wines. There were not a lot of Italian grapes available. This would be like 20 years ago in Texas. So we found, our friend, our great grape grower in New Mexico, who had planted, who is Italian, had planted a number of Italian varietals. We were able to buy some Barbera and some other, and 3 or 4 other, Dolcetto and others. And that's where the title Quattro Stagioni came from, and the Four Seasons. And I think you tasted those wines. And I don't know if you thought the sort of the idea was better than the wine, or how good you thought the wine was. But that's really where this began.
Right. Yeah, no, I did. I got to taste 2 of them.
And do you remember those? And
Yeah.
what did you think?
Well, I thought the Nebbiolo that you guys used, I thought was great as far as that goes. That was the thing about getting the Nebbiolo off of Peter's Prairie, having that little bit that we had. Nebbiolo needs 3 to 5 years to age. I mean, the Italians have it right on the back. It's got to barrel age for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's one of the few grapes that smells like it has H2S when it's young, but it doesn't. It has this funkiness to it, and it has to barrel age out of that. So, and using it too young is kind of a detriment. But yeah, and then we found those labels. We found the original labels, the colas. Brett dug them up out of the information. We got all those colas together, and they were still valid. So we decided in 2012, we had 4 rather outstanding Merlot vineyards to showcase, with blends, and that was the original impetus behind getting the La Quattro Stagioni back on the Becker screen, so to speak.
But the last thing I want to say is agreeing with Rachel and Rebecca and Maggie that this is I love the richness, complexity of this wine. If I got this served as a Barbera in Italy, I would just feel like it was heaven. I'd love to take some over there and pour it for them. I bet they'd like it.
Well, yeah.
But can I ask I have a question. I always feel like, John, when you blended Barbera into some of is it the D'Estate that has some Barbera in it?
Yeah, the D'Estate.
I always feel like the Barbera for not necessarily being percentile wise a major blending component has such an effect on these wines, especially when they're younger. But I'm just curious if you were to feel, how do you feel like Barbera has aged in this wine versus Merlot in the last 10 years?
Well, I think the Barbera is the one thing that's going to send it over the top quicker.
Okay.
I think the tannin from the Merlot is saving this wine. Barbera does not have, as a red wine varietal, as gorgeous as it is, it really does not normally have a lot of tannins to it. It's very light structured grape. That's the one thing that prevents Barbera from really aging for a long time. Right? It just doesn't have the structure, the tannic structure there. I think blending it with the Merlot early on, I can tell you early on, this wine had so much more fruit forward notes in there from that Barbera, those deep, rich red fruit notes that those are muted in the background right now. Those have kind of gone by the wayside. It doesn't mean the wine is bad. It just, the fruit has subdued itself against the other cellar-esque attributes to this. The more, you were talking about violet, which is going to be with the Merlot no matter what. But I also think that there are a lot of darker notes there. There's a lot more richness in the pyrazine end of life, so to speak, is coming forward more. So we get more of those forest floors, those deeper notes in there.
Right.
That almost mustiness to it. That's a well-aged wine that's been kind of, in an oxygen-free environment for a while. But if you look at the meniscus, it is just starting to turn a bit magenta and brown on the edge.
Right.
So it's hit its peak. I think. I think it'll last a couple more years, but I do believe that we've probably hit it at its peak, which is fine. Not every wine's going to last for 50 years, and this wine certainly lasted a lot longer than I thought it would initially.
Yes, your initial notes said 2 years.
Uh-huh.
It is.
Suggestion.
Well,
Is that right?
Yes.
Wow.
They're just going to hold these initial notes over our heads. They're not going to read them all out and stuff. And so tomorrow I'm going on the P drive at work and erasing them all.
Also, always want to point out whenever we're trying one of these is that had Rachel worked for us a year or so before we blended this may have been called the D'estate because it was supposed to be called estate for summer, but that spells the word estate. And so federal labeling laws won't allow us to have that. So Rachel's the one that came up with the brilliant idea of saying, well, let's just call it D'estate, D apostrophe, of summer.
Brilliant.
We'll have a full name now again.
Other question I have is, I'm just curious where the Merlot grapes are from on this one. Is it BJ? Is it estate? I just don't remember.
The Merlot came from our Ballinger Vineyard and
Ballinger,
also from Reddy, from BJ's property. So
Okay.
about 35% of the Merlot, of the blend is BJ's Merlot. 25% or 24% of it is the Ballinger Merlot from our old Bluebonnet Hill property. And then there's 38% of it is the Peter's Prairie Barbera. And then we have literally 3% of the Becker Petite Syrah from the front vineyard in there.
Oh.
Yeah. Altogether, not a bad round. Now,
No.
I am going to suggest, if there are no other questions, and to let everybody know you've got food pairings coming up in a little bit. So start thinking about food. And Rachel, I'm going to pick on you first for the food. So
Oh, I'm on it.
yeah. Okay. If there are no other questions, and yes, Facebook friends, I'm rebooting my iPad. It'll be just a minute before I can get to your questions. So I apologize that we will get to these delayed questions here in just a couple minutes, but I want everybody to go ahead and grab their Texas Cabernet. That'll be the middle one that we're pouring today, not Canada, the other Cabernet. Give it a swirl, a sniff, and a taste. And Joe, would you lead us off on this while I turn off my iPad and turn it back on?
You bet. So I think it's really interesting. So my producer is actually coming to check up on me. Producer Nolan, come say hello. He's down. He's a little off camera. Climb up with a chair. There you go. There's producer Nolan.
What's up, buddy?
Nolan, any thoughts for today? How was summer camp?
Good.
How is your little brother doing down there?
Good.
All right. Anything to report?
How are his teeth?
How are your
Lost your
teeth?
tooth.
Good.
He lost a tooth on his 7th birthday a few days ago.
Wow.
And his grandfather gave him the most amazing stock car racing set I've ever seen. It goes upside down, multiple upside down loops. It's pretty amazing.
That's cool.
And Nolan's a great car driver, right, Nolan?
Mm-hmm.
All right, buddy. Let's see. Nolan, you smell the wine? Smell it? What do you think?
Good.
It's good. All right. You need a finger? One finger? All right.
Grape juice.
Here we go. Any
How is
thoughts?
It's good.
This wine's 2 years older than you are. All right.
That is awesome.
So it's 9 years old.
It is almost 10 years old, actually. That's right. 2012. You're 2014. All right. So this wine has a lot of richness to it. The tannins are I think are kind of like the last one. They're kind of nice and refined. It has a really pretty smooth finish on the back palate.
Absolutely. This is one that I really enjoy. This is the last vintage of this particular wine that we had in the tasting room. This is now a wine that's in distribution.
Right.
But this was the last vintage of it that we kept for the tasting room only. And it's just a really spectacular wine. I miss it. I miss it a lot. Give it back. It's right here.
Get back. Come on.
I really love, this has, Rachel and I again went back to 2 different glasses and we're having a harder time picking this time. They're very different. So we have the Bordeaux glass and we have the Pinot Noir glass. And we both agree that the Pinot Noir glass has a sort of a sharper finish to it, which in this wine we like better than with the Barbera. It almost for me gives a little bit more spiciness.
I agree. The
Yeah.
tannins are a little bit more present, as well as the I think the fruit is
Mhm.
heightened. It has brighter fruit notes than out of the Bordeaux glass.
It's always fun at my house because we just dirty 17 wine glasses every time we try wines. It's great.
All about the experience.
Does anybody feel like they're getting, go ahead, Rebecca, I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask Bobby if he remembered this wine in the tasting room, or was that before you?
I think this is right before me. We still had the Barbera Merlot. We had the 12 Canada, but I believe that this was not in there.
Is this the first time you've had it?
This is the first time I had it.
Okay, so I want to hear your impressions then.
Oh,
Oh my
sure.
gosh,
I mean,
this is phenomenal. So the nose, vanilla, raspberry, and it's just the richness is just, I agree with Joe. Those tannins are so smooth and velvety. The wine is just, I'm blown away. When I opened it up, probably maybe about an hour and a half ago, I tried it. I was like, but now that it's opened up, it's spectacular. I think it's great.
I think I'm finding in this wine that I still feel like this wine has a lot of younger fruit notes. Some of those, just a hint of that green pepper you get sometimes, just very mild. I feel like this wine is, 9 or 10 years old, and I feel like it could age even more years. I don't think we've hit the peak on this wine yet. I feel the same way about the wine we're going to taste in a few minutes. It's incredible how these Texas Cabernets have really held up with time.
Oh, this is wonderful. In 2012, when I first started there in January 2012, there was an article written by one of the producers of Texas wine stating that you could not grow or produce good Cabernet in Texas. And I thought, well, that sounded like kind of a challenge. Don't shake your head, Rachel. She's had to put up with 9 years of ranting about this article.
And I feel like our industry has, decades worth of our wines that say that's not true.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and this person had been producing wine for decades.
That's who can't make a cab.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought on the first taste of some of the wines, so in my interview process before I became the winemaker for Becker, the Beckers sent several wines out for me to taste. And I thought it was awesome. And then they asked me to find some of the wines in the area that I was living in to do a compare and contrast to, which was eye-opening because of the fruit. And that was probably the deciding factor, honestly, when I decided that I could say yes, if given the opportunity, I would say yes for the job, was the fact that there was fruit components. It tasted like Cab, it tasted like Merlot, it tasted like Malbec. And at that time was not a very popular opinion where I was at. It is now. I mean, people I think have gotten to that point where it's like, oh, there's a reason you have varietal separation, varietal differences. Makes for very interesting wines, and I think Texas is kind of hitting ahead of the curve on that.
Very cool.
Okay, so John, on the tasting notes, it does not mention which vineyards our cab comes from. And going back to what Joe said about you can still get those pyrazines. Every time we taste a cab, and we have a lot of those lush pyrazines, I think it qualifies. I always think of Canada. So I have to assume that some of this is from the Canada vineyard.
Nope.
Nope, I was wrong. Tell us, John.
Rebecca, the only if this wine were a few years younger, I feel like I would agree with you. It's just what Miss Canada's Cab does over time that's so amazing. I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong about that.
No, I was
But you're right. I mean, you do think about that in her cabs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It has Becker Vineyards Cabernet Sauvignon, and it has Ready Cabernet Sauvignon, and it has Jet Wilmoth Cabernet Sauvignon. Yeah, Jet's is 7% of the blend. So then we have a
John, what I want to say, John, about making Cabernet in Texas and so forth. I'm certain that my inspiration for wanting to plant a vineyard to make wine was tasting Bobby Cox's cab, and he had won a double gold medal in San Francisco in the '80s. With his wonderful Cabernet. So when I tasted that, and I know when you first arrived, I wanted you to go out and taste his wines because I thought they were extraordinary. And I know you did that. And you came back and said you were just amazed about them. And,
he was extraordinarily generous with his wine cellar. So I was fortunate enough to have dinner with him and Benedict Ryan, also winemaker here in Texas, very nice lady, and Brett and myself, and we had dinner at Bobby's house. That was on one of our vineyard trips early on in 2012, and Bobby went down to his cellar for Pheasant Ridge and his wines from when he first started making wines, and some of the earlier wine producers in his area. He started grabbing out vintage bottles and opening them up, and we had a very delightful dinner. I had to taste a lot. And for winemaking or for a winemaker, it's probably one of the best things that can possibly happen is to taste the history of the area that you're about to deal with. And to get to know the area through the age of those wines and through, from young to vintage, to see the gambit of what's going on. You can taste through people's ideas of what they were trying to do, their triumphs, and of course their mistakes. You get it all, and you get a better understanding. And it's basically an encyclopedia of the history of Texas wine in a bottle.
Dad, I've brought this up before, but I still think one of the most memorable bottles of wine that I've ever had was in 2005, the day before I flew off to start internal medicine residency in New Haven. You and Joe Russell and I had played golf, and you had Joe Russell came over, and we sat out back in our patio, and you opened a bottle of that 97 cab. I think that you must have made with either maybe Jim Johnson. That was so incredible. That to me was one of the great memorable cabs that we've made.
That was Russell, I think.
Russell. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that wonderful wine. It's just this has always been the thing that I've wanted to do most was to make these great cabs, and John, you picked the ball up, and it's just been incredible what you've done. Hats off to you, and I know Rachel's been an important part of it, but it's just been very meaningful to me. This was my goal. And it's fun to see and taste it.
You're good. So Rachel, we have a job for another 2 weeks.
Rachel, you have a job as long as you want one. Until you fire me.
No, shh, don't say that. So just so you know, I apologize if I'm not answering. I completely lost the iPad is completely down that I normally monitor Facebook with. So I'm waiting for a replacement to pop in front of me, and I apologize for not getting to your questions. So bear with us. I am sure, Gary, you're still typing away. I can almost hear it.
Placement just pop in front of you.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So the beautiful thing is there are no questions to answer, so we can talk about whatever we want. So I'm curious, why, Doc, you love Bordeaux's, but why did you decide to start doing all of these different Rhones and everything else? I mean, we do have a Bordeaux focus in the house, but just overall, what was your inspiration to start branching out so broadly?
I love wine. I love experimentation.
Mm.
And I love, we don't know. I mean, Robert Mondavi said to me, you can't look this up in a book. The guys that write articles say you can't make Cabernet in Texas. They found that somewhere and they said, this sounds smart, I'll say it. But the truth is you have to plant the grapes and harvest them and make the wine to see what you can do. And you have to have the right people growing the grapes and the right people making the wine. And finally we're turning that corner. But it's but I love I love wines from all over the world, and it's fun to see how different formulas work in our part of the world. That's a great challenge to me.
So, one of the things so we were up in the high plains the last couple of days. Rachel and I were up there assessing vineyards and looking at the fruit load for this year. And Brett, of course, was there too. So left to Rachel and I would probably spend 10 minutes in the vineyard and then try to go find the best place to eat. But one of the growers, one of our potential new growers said something that I found very interesting. He's like, said his mom told him once that, and he comes from a long line of farmers, once you get West Texas dirt in your shoes, it never quite comes out, which means.
Oh, that's right. That's a great quote.
It is. Absolutely. And the fact that he was extraordinarily excited about his vineyard, row cropping and ranching, and they put in a vineyard about 10 years ago, and this was their thing, that they really found this was where they wanted to go.
John, I actually pulled up this book since you couldn't. And first of all, Angela totally goaded Gary to be like, are you going to let him get away? And
I was seeing that.
It seems like that John and the crew are getting a bonus. He feels like he wrote that correctly, Dr. Becker.
John, what?
That John and crew are getting a bonus. He feels like he did that.
The bonus is we get to go to work tomorrow.
Yes, we have a job.
Yeah. And that's a great bonus. You know what else is a good bonus? Paychecks come in every 2 weeks.
This is true.
That's funny. Angela's goading Gary. I love it. Angela, I absolutely love you. Cheers. Oh, okay. Shall we move on to the Piece de la Resistance, the 2012 Canada Cab? I'm kind of sorry Brett's not on here right now, but because I love the way the contract.
He said he got booted off and his computer just started updating, and so he couldn't get back on.
Okay. Well, Doc, I would, just as a refresher, and I know we've gone over a couple of times in different manners, but I love the very beginning of the relationship with Canada Vineyards with Becker Vineyards. Could you?
Me too. Boy.
Do that?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Could you speak to the beginning of when you met Brenda and Dwayne?
Oh gosh, well, this really began when I think they came to Grape Camp, and I think Brett was there, and I said, Brett tells it, he was the first person in this, but I said, Brett, we really need to be able to have more growers. It's we can't make these wines without fruit, and so he met Mrs. Canada, and he said, she said, I'd like to come out and see your winery, and he said, come on, and I think she liked our wines, and then he said, well, how about signing a contract? She said, that's what I was coming to talk to you about. So that was wonderful. I think Rachel, do I have that straight? I think Rachel knows more about this than I do, but I think that's the way it went. And but these are just wonderful people. That's all I can say. I grew up in West Texas with, all my neighbors were like the candidates. The life was so hard out there, so hot, and so windy, and so dry, and so dusty that all you had were other people, and you found ways to like all of them, no matter how different. Now we've gotten to this terrible tribal separation in our country. They need to come out and try to grow grapes in West Texas. That would end all this tribalism. or try to make French wine in the German Hill Country, John. That would solve a lot of it. I don't think people are just not doing it enough, not trying hard enough, not enough on their plate.
I agree.
If you watch TV, you'll never get the answer to anything. Pardon me. Okay.
Right?
That would be a great reality TV show.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Bobby, no.
Yeah. It's not real. It's not reality.
It's all due to Doc.
Right. All we need are more tiki bars in this world and we'd be fine.
That I can't
That'll be
argue
the
with.
other one.
If there's anything West Texas needs, it's a tiki bar.
Right?
She's right about that.
Okay. Yesterday I showed up I'm dressed rather in a very conservative shirt today compared to yesterday's shirt. I'm just saying that today is a more muted color.
Which one?
That's when I met Mr. Nielsen Senior in the vineyard, and I'm dressed like this. This guy gets off his Kubota. He's just got off the tractor. He's coming in, and I mean that man had been working. He's been working since probably 4 a.m.
And he took one look and he got right back in the tractor and drove off.
To his credit, he took one look and did not shoot me.
He did, as he and I were walking down a little further behind everybody else. He looked at me and goes, "Does he wear fun socks every day?"
It's such a
Wow.
On fun socks lady.
oh.
So one of my favorite stories, I've gotten to go and visit the growers in the High Plains, which is something that I really appreciate because it gives us this other layer, this other level of being able to understand where it comes from, being able to articulate that to our customers. And one of the things about visiting the Canada vineyard that I just absolutely loved was Brett was trying to, get all the growers to kind of tell us about their process, right? And so he asked Mrs. Canada, well, Brenda, what's the process? How do you know when the grapes are ready? What happens when you call us and tell us that you think the grapes are ready? And she goes, well, it's really just a feeling, I guess.
Look, you don't mess with Brenda. She got a feeling. She gets a feeling, and a major hailstorm splits and goes around her property. Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I may be a little on the dumb side, and I may be stubborn, but I'm Irish enough not to mess with Mother Nature. So,
Yeah.
Mother Nature doesn't mess with Mrs. Canada.
right. Oh, okay. I would love to get everybody's opinion on this wine. It's been open for a little bit. So, Bobby, why don't we start with you, if you don't mind, sir?
So I'm gonna have to agree with Joe and even Rachel talking about the pyrazine aspect. So that great green, like bell pepper, jalapeno, hatch pepper nose, like right on the nose. It's right there, and it's just beautiful. And then some nice like Bing cherry notes, like some kind of nice tart cherry, and that fruit is just still right there on the palate. I mean, it's so bright, it's so prevalent, and I'm getting like a hint of like the tobacco and that coffee characteristic right on the finish as well. And it's just, I think this wine is just beautiful. I think this can definitely last another at least 5 years. I mean,
Totally agree, Bobby. You read my mind. I was just thinking that, always with Miss Canada's cab, we always compare it to Jet's cab, which is grown 20 miles away. That it starts off with, Jet's cab, you get the dark fruit notes off the palate. Miss Canada's, you get sort of the lighter fruit notes. They evolve over time, but I still feel like we're halfway there. This wine is great, but I still feel like we're halfway there. I think it's got, another 10 years.
True.
Oh, yeah. Yes, absolutely, Joe.
I agree.
So, Doc, what do you think?
I think it's amazing. I just want to not talk about it, just drink it. It's so good that
we can do that. You know what? It occurs to me that I have been missing calling on the absolute wonderful Miss Margaret. So,
I will tell you, this it gets an A+. This is absolutely fabulous. And I think that we just jump into the 100%. You're there. It just tastes so rich and so to me, it has an expensive taste. It's one that you bring out for special occasions.
I agree, and you can pick up a bottle of this for $3.99.
What a deal!
John, those bottles are
I'll
empty.
hold you to that. Tom.
Yeah.
$2.99. Ask for Bobby.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm seating people, reservations, all that,
Oh, that's funny. Okay. All right. I managed to get back onto Facebook. So it looks like Gary is vying for a bonus right now. He said some very flattering things. So one of which is he's impressed with the fact that Beckers have a great relationship with both their growers and their customers. That everybody feels very comfortable and at home coming to Becker to have a glass of wine.
And it means everything to us is the truth. It truly does. It's just.
Well, and it really is an extraordinarily easy thing. And I have to say, after doing this for 25 years now, going out in the vineyard in West Texas and getting up there, and because I'm a member of the Becker staff and representing the winery, you go in there, nobody is on edge. It's like, oh, here comes those people. It's always like, welcome, how's everything going? And it's so very delightful to be able to deal on that level. We have a good rapport with everyone. What are you laughing at, Rebecca?
Because I feel like when you walk in, people do go, oh, there comes that person.
Yes, they do. But you know what? They're polite enough not to let it show on their face. So everybody on Facebook world, we're looking for a new wine club coordinator. Oh. Rebecca, you don't tell the truth. Yeah, no, but it really is. I know, Rachel, we had a very good trip up there, and
time, and I just can't even say it enough that, and we talk about this all the time, that it really is our relationship with our growers that kicks all of this off. And why we can make such the great wine that we get, because we get great grapes. And just, again, it's all about the relationship. What is wrong with you?
Just somebody, okay, Mr. Gage just said, here comes Mr. Happy Socks. Great. I don't want to hear that on Saturday.
There's a shirt waiting for you.
We got Thursday, Friday too.
See a pair of socks next week on.
Maybe we should just start a whole sock line.
See a label coming.
Yeah.
Joe, you could use a pair of Happy Socks right now.
What's that?
You could use a pair of Happy Socks.
I could.
Well, Rachel has something to say about the wine.
I just wanted to touch on this, and I feel like it's the same thing Joe and Bobby and I have said, but you open up a bottle of Canada, and now we have 2012, and we can absolutely prove to ourselves that it's just so ripe with all those characteristics that we always associate with Canada. It's got that like jammy fruit with those pyrazines, and from 2012 to hopefully 2021, this will be carrying on. But this is Canada all day long, and I love that it just perseveres the whole time.
It is. No,
There you go. I'm like, wrong. I
You did spell
Okay. So now's come the time of the show where Mr. Happy Socks leads off with food pairings. I can turn this around on you. So, are there any other comments? Does anybody else want to make any observations on the 2012 Canada? I should ask.
Well, I just wanted to say, as a whole, I I was really excited to do this because this is one of those things that we used to do in the library tastings where we would try 3 different wines from the same vintage year, or we would try, the same wine from 3 different vintages. And so this one, having 3 separate wines from all the same vintage year, I just think all 3 of them have aged so beautifully and are doing so wonderfully. I think it just 100% again goes to show you that the vintage year does make a difference. The weather that we had in 2012, the way that all kind of came together definitely made a difference. And I think 2012 shows that it's a year and a vintage that will age really, really well. And one of those things that we always say is when somebody says, well, it was a great year, where was it a great year? This was a great year for Texas. 2012 was an excellent year for Texas.
It was.
And I think that's something that's really significant and something to really look at. And I think this definitely shows that and kind of exemplifies that notion that there can be a year that just everything was fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's put Rebecca back on the rehire list.
Wow. So, Rebecca, we have a question. When are the library tastings coming back?
Well, John, when are you going to start doing them?
Sorry?
When are you going to start doing them?
For 8 years, I volunteered to do them, but Brett wouldn't let me. He's afraid that I might say something bad.
No, we're thinking probably, well, the problem is that when harvest starts, we can't really take the tours back in the back. So we hope to try and squeeze one in before harvest gets crazy.
No pun intended.
That's the biggest issue with the library tastings is, that behind the scenes tour. If we're bringing in a bunch of grapes and they're trying to do pump overs and things like that, we really just for safety reasons can't bring people in the back. So we're hoping that we're going to be able to at least squeeze one in before harvest starts. That's the plan.
Yeah, I think, and I think if it turns out that you actually, Rebecca, if you want to do more, we can certainly work around that. But I'm in agreement with you and with the sentiment of these folks. Library tours are great, and it does give everybody a really nice, good, in-depth view of good Texas wine. Not that I'm patting ourselves on the back or anything, but we are fortunate enough to deal with some of the best vineyards. So
No pun intended, John.
Yeah, to squeeze one in. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, the pressing, the squeezing. Yeah, that was.
So we'll keep you apprised. Look at our hey, let's embarrass Rebecca some more. I like this. We'll keep them updated on the website, Rebecca, and let them know, and then we'll shoot out.
My mom is really the only one that can embarrass me, John.
I'm sorry.
My mom is really the only one that can embarrass me. You know that.
Good, because she just texted me her phone number. So let's get another story on the line. Okay, time for food. So Rachel, pick a wine and pick a dish.
I'm here first.
Yeah.
All right. I can tell them in the order of our tasting. I would like to do lamb, portobello mushroom burger, and lamb.
She took that right off your tasting notes.
Not the portobello mushroom burger.
Just a raw portobello mushroom
burger.
Yeah. So a raw portobello mushroom on 2 pieces of bread. There are many ways to make a portobello burger. You got to tell us.
Get mushroom socks.
Mushroom socks.
Yum.
Joe, any food pairings for any of the wines, sir?
I was just thinking it'd be wonderful to have just an absolutely delicious creamy cheese with the Canada Cab.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Bobby?
Thinking pulled pork nachos.
Pulled pork nachos with which wine?
All of them.
All of them.
All of them.
Yeah, just
pulled pork
yeah,
nachos. That's
yeah.
a lot of nachos, buddy.
Oh yeah. Hey, what? I can down myself some nachos.
So Rebecca, what are you thinking?
No, I'm. I think honestly, with which one do I want to pick? With the Barbera Merlot, I feel like a smoked salmon would actually be an interesting choice with that one. I think with the Texas cab and even the Canada cab, I would really like duck.
Quack, quack.
Wait a minute.
No, it's so great to have you. When you're not on, Joe, I miss you so much. You're always.
That was good.
Okay, so queso. I'm thinking, wow, queso.
I want on the table. I want mushroom soup. I want beef bourguignon, and I want duck that's been cooked for a week, and just put back in and keep cooking. And then we'll have to see how they match based on the sauce. But golly, that would be good.
I'm thinking braised short ribs with a nice mushroom and foie gras reduction. So, okay, Margaret, you're up.
Oh, I don't know. Honestly, I don't. I always defer to the cheeses because, especially for the first, the first one we had, I'm gonna say maybe a duck, just where the duck meat falls off of the bone and it's crispy and you're getting natural juices and it's simple and clean and delicious.
That sounds lovely. That sounds really good.
I know.
And I want to remind everybody that we had a great trip to Bordeaux with George Ray McEachern, the famous professor of enology and viticulture at Texas Agricultural and Mechanical College. And a group of us tied our napkins together at the onset of every meal and sang "Jesus Loves Me," and this created chaos.
That is
you had
great.
to be there, but
you had to be there with a group of Aggies, did you?
I'm gonna need the lyrics to that song.
I feel like she sings.
After a bottle of wine, I'd probably sing that song too.
That was followed up, Rachel, by "What a Friend We Have in Jesus," but usually brought Dr. McEachern to our table to talk to us about our deportment, which was questionable in his mind.
So good.
Jesus.
You had to be there, I mean, or not.
I would have loved to have been there. Just a fly on the wall. I mean,
Oh.
You can get Rachel the lyrics. I feel like this will be her favorite song.
Which one?
Okay, Rebecca, a little housekeeping business. So what's up for next week?
Next week, really excited. So we have the 2014. Are you ready for this? Tempranillo Reserve. We haven't had a Tempranillo for so long, and they still don't have one that's released in the tasting room. So we begged and begged, and we got one brought up from the library. So we have the 2014 Tempranillo Reserve. We also have the 2015 Cabernet Franc, which, I mean, come on, it's Cabernet Franc. And then we also have the 2015 Petite Syrah, and the 2015 Petite Syrah was the Estate Reserve. So that was all from our estate vineyard. So the wines next week, 3 library wines again, absolutely fantastic. They are just, I once again had to take it upon myself to be a part of the tasting to make sure that they were okay. They're really, really yummy. I do it for you.
Rachel, were you included in this tasting?
I will be, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, good.
Oh, in the past and the future. This might be one of my very favorite lineups.
Right on.
Yeah. It's
So-
going to be
My other favorite wines.
That'll be week 62?
No, this is week 62. That'll be week 63, sir.
Week 63, next week.
How did that happen?
Okay, so I will need those wines early, please.
yes.
Like as in Friday.
Ready to go.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to be doing a remote broadcast with those wines.
Oh, that's right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Are you skipping school for that?
I'm sorry?
You have to skip school?
No, I won't have to skip school. It'll be over by then. Yeah. Remember, I'll be an hour ahead of you guys.
I won't remember that.
I know.
Out there.
Okay. Anything else any other wine club business? Anything you need to announce or anything you want to say? Okay. We
John,
are.
will you be NWA next week?
I'll be out of town next week, but I'll be on the broadcast.
Northwest Arkansas?
Northwest Arkansas, no.
Kentucky.
Look, fly fishing season did start there, though. Just so you know, fishing season's open up in those rivers in the northern part of the Ozark Plateau. Just so you know. Just saying, it's June, but it's not weird. I like fly fishing. All right. No other business. Then I think we need to raise a favorite glass and say thank you to everybody that has joined us. Thank you for allowing us in your home yet again. And we wish everyone good health, great wine. And next week, we'll see you again. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.